This is Hannibal here from the HannibalTV.com with a daily wrestling news update. And I was really sorry to come back from the gym tonight and see this post from Raquel Beltzner, who is the daughter of Brick Bronsky, who unfortunately, according to her post, was just put into a medical-induced coma and is now on a ventilator due to previous conditions complicated by COVID. So she asked that people pray for him. I just did an interview with him recently. I put the link in the description. He's an actor. He was a Stampede Wrestling wrestler. He did some WWE work. He is a great guy, and I hope that he can fight through this because I really like him. I only really started following him this year, and all I'd known before was about the fight he had with Brian Pillman. But once I started researching him, he's actually a pretty successful actor. He starred in a bunch of B movies, which is pretty good. How many people can say they were stars of movies? And recently, he even did a movie called The Masked Mutilator, which is like kind of a wrestling themed independent horror movie, which I did a review of, and I really liked that movie. So I really hope that he pulls through because I like him. It was one of the funniest interviews I ever did. I was expecting it to go about an hour, and he went 3 hours, and his agent ended up cutting the interview off. So please pull through. I hate hearing that. Also, Bobby Fulton, who I interviewed a week ago today from the Fantastics, was placed in the hospital this week due to spitting up blood. He told me that he had a health setback. He's going through treatments over the next couple of days, and he feels like he's going to recover from it. So I'm glad that Bobby Fulton is staying positive. In WWE news, WWE President Nick Khan did an interview with Ariel Helwani. And I wish I could interview these guys because I'm sure I could do a much better interview and really grill someone like Nick Khan. But the WWE doesn't give me people to interview because they don't want to answer the real questions. But he was quoted as saying, as far as NXT goes, he says, quote, "We're doing a complete revamp of NXT led by Triple H, Paul Levesque, who was really one of the architects of the original NXT. Everything's going to change. Look for it in the next couple of weeks. It's going to have a whole new look. It's going to have a whole new feel. And we believe because a lot of indie wrestlers, if you will, have come through our system and are in our system with SmackDown and Raw now, we don't want to just keep doing the same thing. We want to look elsewhere for great young talent," end quote. And of course, this past weekend, WWE did a tryout in Las Vegas that was mostly athletes who had never been wrestlers before. And they ended up signing 13 or 14 of them, according to reports. And Khan had this to say about the tryout, quote, "So what we found, it's part of why we did the tryout. What we want to make sure is it's easy for folks who want to be WWE superstars is figuring out how to become superstars," end quote. I'll just say this before I get into the last part about Khan. What he's basically saying there is they're going to be looking at hiring people with no wrestling experience and training them from scratch, having people like Norman Smiley, Kidman, and all these, Robbie Brookside, the people in the Performance Center training them. those guys will teach them how to become stars, I guess, because they did such a great job of becoming superstars themselves. I think Albert's the head trainer there. And he was a huge star, wasn't he? But yeah, they're not even doing NXT house shows locally in Florida right now. So I don't see any bright future for WWE, to be perfectly honest with you. I would like to see more companies pop up like PCW Ultra, World Class Pro Wrestling, and actually give true alternatives as interest in WWE continues to go down. Nick Khan had this to say about the WWE sale, the rumors about it. He says, quote, "I don't know that there's an explanation for it. Ultimately, about if firing everyone had anything to do with the WWE sale. Correction. This is what he had to say about the recent releases. If that had to do with, are they planning to sell?" And he said this, quote, "I don't know that there's one explanation for it. Ultimately, what's looked at is this person for us going to move the needle now or in the imminent future," end quote. So I do agree with him on that. Most of the people they got rid of aren't needle movers, and a lot of them were making huge amounts of money and really not earning their worth. So maybe they will sign some of them back in the future to lesser contracts. But for instance, none of those NXT guys are going to be draws on the independent scene that were released. I'm not saying they're bad workers, but they're not ratings getters. And NXT just did a 0.1 rating a few weeks ago, their worst rating ever. And the other funny comment that I forgot to comment on about Khan saying that Triple H is going to be in charge of the revamped NXT. Well, he's been running this product that got their butt whipped by AEW and has little to no interest right now. So how is the guy that's been running it all along going to save it by now hiring wrestlers with no wrestling experience? I don't know. I have no faith in WWE. Hello, Colonel Quayle. Hello, Will. He's saying hi. I still haven't ran today, so I won't be having any of that just yet. It's been quite hot here the past few weeks. And I noticed there's been a lot of people complaining about the heat. I mean, we've only had a couple weeks of heat here in Ontario, and it's almost September when it starts getting really cold again. So you'll never hear me complaining. Running in this heat is euphoric. I can sweat off like 10 pounds out there running. It's funny. Someone actually stopped me like 3:30 in the morning the other night and asked me if I was okay because I was running that late at night in the heat. And I'm like, yeah, I am. And the reason I run at this time of night so people don't bother me. Chris, I just gave the Bobby Fulton update. He messaged me directly and gave me that news that he's going through treatments. What happened to Brick? I guess he has health issues, and then the COVID has caused complications. So I hate to see that. Herb, his Southern Illinois Championship Wrestling show is airing tonight at 9 p.m. on this channel, and he says Bobby did an update today as well. Pete sending prayers. Pussy Monster. Great name. Says Triple H sucks as a booker. Well, the way NXT is going is proof of that. Yeah, Shawn Michaels is assisting Triple H. Lots of people wishing Brick the best. Carrie says that all those NXT guys going to go work at IHOP. I don't give a fuck about what happens to them, to be perfectly honest. I've worked real jobs all my life, including a sawmill, which was one of the worst jobs I ever had, breathing in sawdust all day, getting sawdust down your back all day, doing physical labor, getting attacked almost at least probably once a week, working as a bouncer. So I have no sympathy for wrestlers that have to get real jobs after being spoiled working for WWE. Sean says there's a lot of great young talent, too many lightweights. There is heavyweights out there. I mean, they signed Harry Smith. He's been signed for months, and all they've done with him is put him in a dark match and given him a backstage promo that's aired online so far. And I mean, if there's a great wrestler out there, it's Harry Smith. Mike says he thinks AEW is doing a lot of things right. They do some good stuff, some bad stuff. There's been nothing on AEW that has really made me want to watch more than a segment or two, but it's just not my taste. But I am happy that they're providing competition to WWE and giving guys like The Fiend another place to work, for instance. Chris says it's hard to get guys over who haven't paid their dues. And actually, you have a point there. When you haven't paid your dues, you can get a big head real easy, and you don't actually understand when they give you a push how much it means to actually get a push in wrestling. So that's one of the issues. When you have a guy like Austin who was on the Indies, Hulk Hogan, who had success before WWE, but he paid his dues. John Cena was brought in by Rick Bassman doing Indies before he had a WWE contract. All of the greats paid their dues. Roddy Piper, Ric Flair. There's only a handful of ones that have been a success being trained from scratch. I would say Goldberg is probably the biggest star that didn't pay any dues and was just trained. Brock Lesnar too, but he had an amateur wrestling background, and he's a very special case. But if you're going to bring in a whole bunch of new people that haven't paid any dues, that's just a recipe for disaster. Yeah, Al, John Cena was the prototype on the independent scene. And he did want to be a wrestler all their life. And there's lots of people out there that will always say, oh, I've always wanted to be a wrestler. Like these athletes that probably just got signed at this tryout. They'll say, oh, I always want to be a wrestler. But they don't actually want to pay to get trained or to pay the dues on the indies. They just want to be a wrestler if they're paid for their training and brought right into WWE. And those are the kind of people that you do not want. Alfred is wondering where the Blood Hunter is. I'm not sure, but I did look up his record the other day, and his record is 13 wins, 0 losses, and 2 draws, and he is the reigning Texas heavyweight champion, as well as the reigning Great North Wrestling heavyweight champion. And I know he's going to be defending at least the Texas heavyweight title for the first time ever that the Texas heavyweight title has been defended in Canada. Next Saturday in Kingston, Ontario, there's going to be 2 events, one at 3 p.m. and one at 7 p.m. And I am actually going to try to live stream both events on this channel. The last thing that I'll make a note of, which, by the way, if you didn't hear the World Class Pro Wrestling event, October 3rd, ringside is already sold out. There's also going to be a World Class Pro Wrestling event December 11th, where Jenny Santana is going to make her debut. And I did post a video on here yesterday of Tito Santana talking about Jenny. And Jenny wanted me to point out that she's actually tried to reach out to him a few times, but he isn't very receptive, as we all could see from the clip when her name was brought up. So he didn't actually raise her, and they've only recently found each other in the past couple of years. The mother, she suspected it for a long time, but it was only confirmed, I think, through a blood test with one of Tito's sons recently. But hopefully he'll take an interest. He did mention in that clip that he saw her interview with me. So who knows? But she's a nice girl, and she's training really hard. And December 11th at Southern Junction in Dallas, Texas, which, by the way, World Class Pro Wrestling is going to run Southern Junction in Dallas, Texas every month starting in December. So a lot of big things ahead for that company. Eric Embry is the booker. They have a working relationship in place with AEW, as you can see by Matt Hardy, Fuego del Sol, and QT Marshall being involved so far, among others to come. The Von Erichs boys are going to be there December 11th in Dallas. So World Class Pro Wrestling, I have high hopes for it. Carl wants to see more and more wrestling companies locally. I wish that Canada would ease off on their restrictions, because it would allow more events around Ontario in particular. But I don't think after this Saturday's Great North Wrestling event, I'm going to run again this year, just because they increased the restrictions since I originally planned this. And it's becoming a huge pain in the ass to pull this event off. That's why we're doing 2 events, to get the most out of it, get the most footage for you fans. Mark Lawrence is going to be in World Class Pro Wrestling as one of the commentators. Yes, Naval Sailor, you are correct. So have a good night, everyone, and God bless you, Brick Bronsky. Keep fighting. You're a tough guy, and I'm really sorry to hear that. So it's really sorry for your family as well. You'll pull through.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please like this video if you enjoyed it, and click the subscribe button to not miss any of our latest shoot interviews, match videos, or news.